Happy to be standing in front of you men and women, being 1-0. But I'm going to tell you, just like I told our guys, that's just one game. We have a number of games left, so we quickly moved on to Seattle, quickly, right after that game. So we're looking forward to the competition.
Foundation of any good defensive improvements starts with stopping the run. You've talked about that all offseason. Few QB contained leaks, but otherwise on their non-QB runs, averaged 2.6 yards a carry. Didn't have a run longer than 7. So what did you like most about that performance? What about it is sustainable?
Here's what I would say about us defensively, and it has nothing to do with stats, to be honest with you. I think our identity showed up for the most part. And I'll tell our guys this, listen, the stats are the stats, but if our identity shows up, it takes care of everything. We play with maximum effort. I mean, you saw Benito run 14, 15 yards down the field to be a part of a tackle. I thought we were physical. I thought we were violent, especially in the secondary. And I thought we attacked the football. Now, we didn't come away as many balls we won as far as interceptions and punch-outs. We did get one. But to me, that's what really showed up. I mean, the stats are the stats. But like I tell our guys, if we do those things, if we understand, if we do those things, those 3 things, man, the stats going to take care of itself, and those guys did that.
Did you quickly move on to Seattle based off 51 points 2 years ago, 48 last year? I mean, they're an explosive offense. Just what's the challenge this week?
Well, I moved off Seattle because that's the next game. So regardless of what happened, that's the next game. And yes, I mean, I hear you guys talking about how they have a bad taste in their mouth. Well, hell, I got one in my mouth too. You know, we gave up 50 points, like damn near twice. So our guys will be ready to play. They'll be ready to play.
What have they done in the past, or what is their style that's giving you guys problems?
Well, I know this head coach well, and the one thing that they're going to try to do, they're going to try to run the ball. I mean, that's his background. That's who he is. So the same thing that I talked about last week, we're going to have to do this week, is we're going to have to really commit to stopping the run, because they will run you out of the stadium if you don't. And then we also got to be able to stop these explosive passes, because they have receivers that can take you down now. So we have to do a good job with that. And this quarterback, man, I thought he's been playing really, really good. And I was with him in New York when we drafted him, so I know him fairly well. So I'm proud of how he's operating right now, but I want to beat him bad.
Is there a lack of tackles, or having 2 guys down, how does that change things? Maybe even run the ball more to help protect you?
Well, I'm not at their building right now, so I don't know what they're going to do, but I know what we're going to do. We're going to go out there and we're going to play hard.
You brought up the turnovers. You got the 1.
Yeah.
Probably could add 4.
Yeah.
Right? One off CJ's hands, one off Brian's hands.
We got to catch the ball.
But does it encourage you, just the positioning of your guys, to be able to make those plays? Like, I imagine you don't think they're going to drop 2 again.
Well, that's the hope. That's the hope. So we'll do a lot of ball drills going into this week to make sure we can catch those balls. But that's one of the things we try to do week in and week out, is make sure that we take the ball away. You know, that's one of our, that's part of our identity, like I said before. So we have to come away with those.
Justin asked about the run game. I'm curious in the rush game. 17 hurries, I think it was, 7 quarterback hits. I know you didn't get home with the 6.
Say it again.
The 17 hurries, 7 quarterback hits you had last week. I know you didn't get home in terms of sacks, but just how you thought the pass rush operated. Looked like you got him off his spot quite a bit, made things uncomfortable.
Well, I thought our guys did a really good job. I thought Hutch really played his ass off as far as being disciplined as far as the rush plan is concerned. And he had a couple of shots at the quarterback, along with Houston. He had a couple of shots also, especially against that quarterback. I mean, I tell you what, man, he is hard to defend. There's no doubt in my mind that he'll have a gold jacket at some point. So I'm proud of the way our guys, the discipline as far as how we rushed them. And sometimes sacks can be overrated. Now, I like sacks. I do. Everybody does. But the discipline is that's what I like more, because that carries over into the next couple of weeks on how you have to rush the quarterback. And those sacks are going to come. And with this game and our guys seeing how we operate this game, I think there comes belief in how we have to win games. And they understand that. So there were some positives also that our guys saw going to the following week.
What sort of challenges Kenneth Walker as part of that run game?
Say again?
What sort of challenges Kenneth Walker as part of that run game?
He's a good back now. He's a really good back. He's explosive. I'll tell you, these jump cuts that he's able to make within that running game, I mean, it's pretty special. So our guys know it's a challenge. It is. And again, with this head coach knowing what he wants to do, we have to be ready for it.
Last week you played a lot more zone than you did maybe last year.
How do you know that?
Look at some stats. But
You sure?
in average, did you?
You think I'm gonna tell you that?
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Seriously.
I know you're not.
You know
gonna
what we
tell-
did? We did what we have to do to win the game.
Yeah,
And that's what I'll tell our guys. Every game is different.
that's what I was.
And you do what you have to do to win the game. So if that's zone, that's man, I'm not gonna tell you what it was, but we did what we had to do to win the game.
But do you feel more confident with the personnel that you have that you can change game plans? You can play more man one week, more zone the other week.
I feel totally confident in the guys that we have. Totally confident.
Gino did have some success on the ground against you. He's not maybe the mobile quarterback he was when he was early in his career, but just given that Mahomes did find some success there, do you have to make any adjustments or make that more of a point of emphasis this week for your guys?
Well, I would tell you this. We watched a good amount of his quarterback runs this morning as a coaching staff, and then I showed it to our defensive guys. Yes, we did. We did. And it's a problem. But as you look across the league, that was an issue for a number of teams with him, as far as him running the ball. So there are some things that we're planning to make sure we're good with that. But, man, I tell you what, this league is starting to get tough with these quarterbacks running the ball. And we just got to be good in that area.
Speak about Brian Branch a little bit, man. All throughout camp, all throughout preseason.
You want me to continue to say he's a good player? How many times I got to say that?
No, I'm just speaking of just keeping him not. I mean, you come and get a pick six your first game like that in that setting. From you as the coordinator, just as his coach, how do you keep him focused and motivated, not to just take that and, hey, that's the highlight of my season.
Have you talked to that player?
Yeah.
You have? That should tell you everything about him. That should tell you everything. I don't think that's a worry. Well, I know it's not a worry. This guy's come from a great program, and he's made a lot of plays on the biggest stage that he could be in. He made a pick six, man. He's on to the next.
I'm wondering, Alex, in the will, we've talked to him. He said he loves playing the will a lot more. Just your thoughts on seeing him there?
Alex just loved to play. If that's Will, Mike, it doesn't matter. He loves to play. And I think the will allows him more opportunities to run, and we take advantage of what he does best, and that's being in coverage for the most part. So, again, with what we have going on with the players that we have, it's exciting just playing on his defense in general. It's exciting for me as a coach to coach him. So I think that's more of what he's talking about than anything, because I don't think Alex cares where he plays. He just want to be on the field with the other players that we have.
I'm wondering if you're willing to acknowledge now that the game has passed, was the way in which Juwan Taylor was lining up give your defense a little bit of an edge?
That's what you guys do, man. We play, and the refs call what they're gonna call. I mean, it doesn't matter to us. We just go out there and play, and whatever happens, happens. So my job is to coach. Their job is to play. Their job is not to worry about all that stuff. And if they're not gonna call it, so be it. We just go play.
Did he tip a little bit of an edge based on how he's lining up?
Listen, it was happening the whole time, run up pass, so it didn't matter.
What you think of Pascal? 3 tackles, had obviously the big play on third down, but just
Yeah.
maybe he's finally healthy. What you've seen from him in his second year, how he can help you?
Well, that's one guy that I've talked about since OTAs that was excited about seeing, because of the fact that he's had an off season to train. He's had a training camp to go through. He had OTAs to go through. So it didn't surprise me at all that he was effective in that manner. And I expect him to continue to grow in the positions that we have him in. So you will see him out there more. I think he had like maybe 30 plays. He's continued to grow, so you'll see him out there more.
The player you were excited about this offseason was Derek Barnes.
Yeah.
And Shep both talked about the improvements he made. That's all hypothetical till you see it in week one. It looked like it was there. So what was your assessment of his performance?
Just like I told you, I was excited about the player and what he showed on tape, what he did in the game, exactly who he is. And everybody's different. You know, every player's different. Sometimes it takes a player a year. Sometimes you can come out the box ready to go, and sometimes it might take you 3 years. The thing is, we saw a player in Barnes, and that's starting to show up in the games.
A little bit off topic, but
Uh-oh.
Barry Sanders, they're unveiling his statue this week, and you were sort of a contemporary of his, played against him I don't know how many times, but
Yeah.
do you have a favorite Barry story or memory from, or nightmare from playing
No, I
against him?
don't. No, I don't. But listen, great player, Hall of Famer, great person, more than anything. And I think that's what speaks. That's why he's getting everything that he's getting, because of who he is as a person. And he just happened to be a damn good football player.
What do you think of the new kickoff rule? I saw a stat by ESPN. It was like the lowest return percentage in the history of Week 1, 20%. Just did it play out like you thought, or no? Yes.
Yeah, I think there was only one fair catch actually, but there was a lot of touchbacks. But there was just balls in the end zone. I think I don't know if I said it to you guys, but I know I talked about it in the offseason. The touchback rate was going to go up no matter what, just because the average drive start on kickoff return from a year ago was past the 25-yard line. So for most teams, when they look at the analytics or the data, they're going to say, hey, we kicked the ball for them to return. They returned it. They got past the 25. Why don't we just kick it in the end zone and give it to them at the 25 instead? And that would be better for us if we're in coverage. So I think that increased a little bit that way. That wasn't why we had the ball in the end zone. We tried to kick a couple of those things, or 3 of those. We tried to kick returnable balls, but they end up carrying for us in that game. In terms of the fair catch, I think there was one. It came from the Rams against Seattle. Those guys took a fair catch with the ball, I think, at around the 5-yard line or something like that. Yeah, so we'll see how it goes. I don't know. It'll be interesting to track it going forward. I know this. I wish when I was in grade school, man, they would have let me just go like that and wave my hand over my head and give me a B, and I didn't have to take the test. Just give them the ball at the 25. We don't even have to play the play. No, but we'll see how it goes. We're excited. Hopefully we get a chance to return some kicks this week, and hopefully they get a chance to return some too. We're excited for this matchup, man. I love playing against Seattle, so it should be fun.
Returnable balls for them, so you didn't totally follow the analytics. Why? Just the trust in yours?
Yeah, we feel good about our coverage group, and I think there's more to it than just looking at the average drive start on all the kicks in the league. But some of it's who are you, who are they, what's the hang time on the kick, where's the location of it. And I think that's it too. I think I did say to you guys that if you kick the ball to the 10-yard line, then the odds say it should come out past the 25. So you're not trying to give them, a good returnable kick either. You're trying to put some pressure on them. So anyway, yeah.
Let's go with the fake. Another successful one for you guys. I don't know what your history was with fakes before you got here, but I'm just wondering how Dan Campbell's attitude towards it has shaped you, and how much I guess you've embraced it, seeing the success you've had here in the 3 years.
Yeah, no, Coach Campbell's incredible with all that stuff. I've said that every time we've run one of these things. And then, really the players are the guys who go out there and execute it. People say, hey, good job on the fake. I'm like, I didn't do anything, we talked about it, we put it in, we practiced it or whatever, but ultimately it's those guys out there making plays and the head coach having the confidence in those guys to call them. So it's been good. What you want me to?
How he shaped your perception.
So it's interesting because really when I was in Philly, we didn't run very many fakes. I think I ran like 2, if you could call it 2 in my time there. And I was there for a long time, so we didn't run any. But I think some of it it's like the atmosphere of the head coach, the organization, how much, the people embrace that, who you are as a team, are you kind of a great team, or are you kind of an underdog, or I think all that stuff shapes that a little bit. What do you need to win a football game, really? And so I think that has a lot to do with it. Now, that being said, obviously Coach Campbell embraces that part, and so he's pushed that to another level, certainly for me, and I love it. It's been great. I think I told you guys at one point, when I sit in there and watch the film, I'm looking at all the rushes, and he's like, "Oh, rushes, that's perfect. If they're rushing us, we can do this, this, and you know what I mean." The first thing he's looking at is all the fakes off it, and so he's an offensive coach. It's really helped me being around him and seeing the game kind of through his eyes that way.
So you guys are 7 of 8 or 8 of 9 or whatever it is, like in your 3 years here. Like, to what do you attribute? I don't know what the percentages are on the league, but what do you attribute that success? That's pretty. The one that you didn't convert was a drop pass. So.
Yeah, no, it's a shame. Yeah, I know, it kills me. You always remember the plays that don't work. But I would say that I am proud of that because I think there is something to that. And I think that it's one thing to go out there and run a bunch of fakes. And I think people have done that in the past. And they're 50-50, and that's really not good enough, in my opinion. But I would say it's a number of things. But ultimately, it really all comes back to the players. When you got players who are able to overcome and they make things right, no matter what what the look is, they're able to adjust and adapt and handle it, is really what it comes down to. I say there's two types of people in life. There's guys who have all the reasons for why it didn't work out and didn't go their way, and then there's a group of guys that find ways to get things done. And ultimately those guys have done that, which has been fun to watch.
Because you guys have done it so often, like the element of surprise is not there with a lot of these teams. So what's the secret to combating that? Just being perfect?
Yeah, I think, the element of surprise in one way is kind of eliminated, just being like, well, yeah, this team may run a fake, but where it hits has probably been changed, multiple times, whether it's been outside wide on the perimeter with a throw out there wide, or it's been sweep kind of play around the edge. And then all of a sudden last week we hadn't hit anything up the middle, inside, so it's like, okay, you're going to take away this, well, then can you take away that too? And so there's a little bit of that. Some of it, I think, goes back to, we talked about at one point, some of these plays can come on and off based off the look. And so you're trying to run it against a higher percentage look. And you feel better about doing it. And that goes back to the players having the ability to put it on, take it off, and do a good job handling that or managing it. But
20's kind of
it's funny, people said that, and I almost didn't even realize where the ball was, but it really, obviously you'd have to talk to Coach Campbell, but in my mind, we were going to get it. And it really didn't matter where it was. I wasn't even thinking that way. It was just like, okay, we got an opportunity if we get in a certain situation here to run this thing. And kind of all those parameters came up on that play. And really the first one of the game was similar. And we kind of passed up on it there, and then had a chance to do it on the second one, and obviously it worked. But yeah, I don't know, you don't even think that way, but not working, you're just thinking of how to make it work,
Can the fear of it help you in other areas, Dave?
Say that again.
Can the fear of the fake help?
Oh yeah, I think it's beneficial for us, because of it. We get, a handful of different looks that most people don't get. I think the corner's got to be cautious of, are we throwing the ball out there and not just holding the guy up on as a gunner. So I think there are definitely a lot of advantages to it.
Curious about fair catches on punts. I don't know, I think there's this unspoken rule, don't catch it inside the 10, but Khalif fielded 2 inside the 10. Just what's your general philosophy of when to and when not to field a football? Yeah,
it is a good question. I won't go into all the specifics on it, but no, there's definitely should he have done that? And I would say, really, we don't live our life that way either. It's more like, hey, man, we trust you back there to make good decisions. Now, we do have some parameters. I'm not going to get into all those. But the one thing I would tell you is those punts were coming from, when the ball's punted from the -40 to 50 area, which those kind of were, if the ball turns over, it actually, believe it or not, the common sense would tell you, well, it's going to skip and roll into the end zone. You get the touchback. But the truth is, if the ball turns over from that part of the field, because in that part of the field you're having to hit the ball up high, and if it turns over, it actually comes down, point down, and I would say a high percentage of those actually stick and come back. So it's a lot less than you think, and you could even just mess around with the ball and toss it up in the air and see it, and it's like, oh, wow. But to the average observer, it's like, well, that thing would have gone in the end zone. Well, it's not as common as you think. The same thing happens on a kickoff. It's like I've had somebody ask me before on a kickoff, if the ball is spinning and it's coming short and it's like at the 1 yard line or 2 yard line, you could just let it bounce and roll in the end zone. But on those short kicks, the ball's spinning a lot faster. That's part of the reason why it's short. And then the trajectory of the ball is going higher up and it's coming flatter or harder down. And those are the kicks that stick a lot more often than you think too, So it's like, you think common sense kind of tells you like, oh, the thing will roll in the end zone, but it really is not as much as you think. So I was good, to answer the question, I was good with what Leaf did. And, we got a lot of confidence in him back there and trust his decision making. I was good with it.
Was that just like he had his mind made up on taking this one back in that situation, game?
Yeah, I think he's probably competitive. He felt like there was a lot of space out there. I think if you watch just teams around the league, there's been a lot more return balls in that part of the field just because everybody's fighting for every yard they can get. Field position's huge. The league wants the ball to be in the middle of the field, so teams go for it and don't punt. But really it tells you that the further back they start, the worse their odds of scoring are too. So everyone's kind of fighting for that field position.
It was great to start off with a win last week. Wasn't necessarily our best stuff offensively, running through some week one issues. More than anything, the procedure stuff is the stuff that we got to get cleaned up. We had some pre-snap issues, whether it was snapping the ball early on the motion that resulted in the fumble there on our third drive. But that's kind of his first time silent cadence, playing on the road, loud environment, and we will learn and we'll grow from that. So other than that, though, it was great to start off with a win. And I know our guys are hungry to improve.
Outside of the win, what did you like about the operation in week one?
I think they handled it really well. Like I said, we weren't firing on all cylinders. We had more 3 and outs than we would like, and the guys, they stayed in it, they stayed focused, and we came through early in that fourth quarter when we needed to with a long drive to score. So I was really encouraged to see that, and then 4 minutes at the end of the game was really good. That's something dating back to last year against Minnesota, game 1 against Minnesota. 4 minute with who we have in that room. We take a lot of pride in finishing the game with the football, and so it was good to see us convert the first down when we needed to, and not give the ball back to a good player that it becomes a crapshoot at that point. So those are 2 encouraging things that came out of that game.
Dan talked about the obvious wanting to get Jameer more involved, or doing that, I guess, over the next couple of weeks. What's the without giving away the game plan? How do you sort of do that? Just getting him more involved with the offense, keeping David happy at the same time.
Yeah, no, I think it's I guess you could say a third thing that came out of the game. Our young guys played really well. They stepped up to the plate, and quite frankly, you don't know exactly what you're going to get week one with some of those young players, and particularly in that environment. And so, yeah, we will get Gibbs going as he gets more comfortable. We always have plays tagged for him going into the game, but we feel really strongly about David as well. So that whole combination, that 1-2 punch is really good for us. We had them both on the field at the same time a little bit last week. We'll probably continue to do that over the course of the season. And, we'll see where Gibbs best suits us each week.
Young guy, go ahead, Dave.
Well, Gibbs is obviously really good in the passing game, but David seemed to be a really good blocker back there too. He stood in there a couple times the other day. So, especially on third downs, I guess, is that just an area where maybe both those guys could be effective?
Yeah, I think third down, you could see both those guys step on in there. I don't see necessarily David as just a blocker. I think he's got underrated receiving ability. That was on his tape all over from Chicago the last 4 years, and just because we didn't throw him the ball last week doesn't mean we feel really good about doing that. And then Gibbs is he's more physical than what you would imagine, so we have no problem in 6-man pro him stepping in there and blocking linebackers. and so we'll continue to increase his role.
Just want to ask you about Sam. Obviously caught all 5 of the targets. We've seen that part of his game, but the blocking part, don't get to see a lot of that in camp. Just how impressed were you of that part of his game, and how advanced maybe is that for a young guy?
It was really good. Week 1, I thought he did some really nice things. So the touchdown run that David had, he had a key block as he was pulling on around the corner, and we challenged those tight ends, just their style of defense last week. They played a lot of what we call 6 techniques, so they had the defensive end line up over those guys, head up or even slightly inside, and we said that for our run game to go, those guys were going to have to make some big blocks for us, and they came through. They came through for us, both him and Brock. And so I think Coach Hayden has done a phenomenal job getting those guys ready, particularly a young player like Laporta. He is very smart. He's dialed in with the different looks, and so we're confident both run game and pass game with him right now.
Other thing Dan brought up was wanting to be better with tempo going forward. I'm just curious, you were exact same week 1 as you were all of all of last season in terms of time per snap. So is that just indicative of you guys want to be a faster team?
It was, listen, I put that on me more than anything. That and some of those procedure issues we had, I take a lot of pride in that. And, I think that's a reflection of me probably biting off more than we could chew with some of the play calls. Got a little wordy. We're a little bit slow getting the substitutions in there. I have to do a better job getting the play to the quarterback. But, yeah, we are focused on, and tempo for us doesn't necessarily mean how quickly do we get the ball snapped each play, but it is, once we get out of the huddle, let's align with some urgency and put some stress on the defense. And we didn't feel that up to our standard last week.
How fun was it to have all 5 of those guys? I know we've talked about it leading in, but to see all those 5 guys up front and the way they played had to have been fun to watch.
It was awesome. Yeah, it was awesome. I think they're starting to gel. The communication's there between that group. It was really good for the first week. I like it.
I know you talk about wanting to become more efficient, in the preparation process for yourself personally. Going into this first week, how do you feel like you've improved at that?
Yeah, it's hard to say week 1 and really this week because we have a longer week as well. So we'll probably know more in that regard once we get in a normal 7-day span. But these first 2 games, we've kind of had some extended time, so it's hard to say for sure. We may or may not have spent the night last week, but it's like the more time you get, the longer you stay. It's weird. It's bizarre, but well.
Physicality. He broke some tackles.
Yeah.
Running too.
Oh yeah.
Was that a big part of him in college? I mean, did you know that he would be?
Yeah. I mean, he's special. It's everything that we saw on tape, and it's just good to see it translate over to this level.
What jumps out about them?
Say it again.
What jumps out about Seattle's defense?
Yeah. I think anything that starts with Seattle is their head coach, and it's been this way ever since he's been there. They're going to play hard and they're going to play fast, and that's not just defense. That's offense and special teams as well. I think that's been a constant ever since he's been there. So we know we're gonna get a group that's hungry, that flies around to the football. They play physical. It shows up from this group right now. They have some younger guys, that maybe we don't have a ton of film on, particularly on the back end there. I know Witherspoon sounds like he'll be playing this week. He's a guy that we thought highly of coming out of Illinois, and just not much tape on him right now. 27 played his rear end off last year for them, and he's a long, fast guy on the other corner, and Quandre Diggs on the back end. He's a stud. So very instinctive player back there. And then linebackers, smart group that can run. And then up front, there's just been a lot of change with who they had last year to who they have this year. They some guys left and they have some new additions. So still trying to get a feel for some of those guys up front. I know that they didn't have the performance necessarily that they wanted last week with the result, but they did a heck of a job stopping the run. I would imagine that they would key in on that for us this week. And I know that they're going to play hard and they're going to play fast.
With a guy like Witherspoon, when they're going to be playing him, it sounds like slot cornerback was kind of the role they had picked for him. He didn't do a ton of that in college, so how do they prepare for a guy that maybe what he did from his college tape and looking at that, but maybe in a different role?
Yeah, it's challenging because there's just not much to go off of. I think as a whole, you can see how the group is coached and the various techniques that they display based on the coverages, and you kind of project that onto him as well. But yeah, there's a lot of unknown with where he'll be, where he'll line up, and how he'll play.
You're coming off a 4 or 5 weeks ago to get your own defense. I'm curious, kind of looking back now, the differences you see with going against the defense from a year ago. And I don't know how much you got to see in Kansas City, probably not a lot, but just
Going against our defense? Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
What's your sense of how it's changed? What's different from a year ago?
Maybe a little bit more frustrating on my end than it was last year in training camp. I felt like we hit a few more explosives last year, and probably felt a little bit better about our offense at that point in some ways. But it's good to see that it seems like that they've made a jump going in early this year. It's only been one game, and consistency is the key for both sides of the ball for us right now. But no, I think they gave us some challenges there in camp, and it was good to see it translate over to week 1.
Any particular area where you felt the challenges the most?
Yeah, I felt them talking a lot more. They were chirping at us constantly. Yeah, so had to deal with that. You got AG standing right next to me. Bam! I'm like, you think so? We don't have pads on, but okay.
You mentioned some of the 3 and outs. In a lot of those opportunities, you were in a third and manageable, third and short. So what do you have to do better on those opportunities this week to
Yeah, I thought Spags did a heck of a job. He changed up a couple things that maybe I was anticipating there on third down, so it wasn't as favorable coverage looks as I had hoped for. And but we did have chances. We did have chances in some of those short yardage, call it 3rd and 2 to 6 area. We weren't very good. I think we were 2 for 7 for the game there, and we should be over 50%. Based on what we're aiming for. So. Area of emphasis for us going into this week, we have to improve there, and it's something that LA did really well last week against these guys. Like I said, they didn't run the ball particularly well, but they were able to stay on the field on third down, and they had some explosive plays out of it. So we need to be better there.
It's a pretty atypical game for what we've come to expect in his career. Never fumbled before last week in the draft. Do you say anything to him? Is there any concern there?
No, Marv's a vet. He's a pro. I've been around him for a long time. I know he was disappointed with how he played, and I know he'll bounce back.